American officials blame drones supplied by Iran for Russia's deadly attacks on Kyiv. Iran denies this, but the U.S. and EU are threatening new sanctions as a result. Alex Vatanka is the founding director of the Iran program at the Middle East Institute. Alex, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So if sanctions were imposed by the U.S. and the European Union, would they have an impact?
To be honest, at this point, I'm not so sure. We just heard from the Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who came out and pretty much in full defense said, yes, this is what we're doing. We're providing drones to the Russian Federation, and what's it to the world? Others are selling to other countries. Why are you picking on us? That was his message. That doesn't seem very promising in terms of him being willing to compromise, despite the heavy cost Iran's expected to pay for the supply of these drones to this Russian military operation in Ukraine.
So what do we know about the drones that are being used by Russia?
What we do know is, again, very quickly, if I could give you a history here, before 1979, the Iranian Air Force was very good. It was American supplied, American trained. After 79, the Iranian Air Force came crashing down because of not having relations with the United States. So what they have done in recent years is to compensate for that by building up their drone capabilities. So pretty good drone capabilities on the part of the Iranians right now.
On October 18th, the State Department deputy spokesperson said this. Take a listen.
Russia deepening an alliance with Iran is something the whole world should, especially those in the region and across the world, frankly, should be seen as a profound threat.
What do you think of that, Alex? Is it a profound threat?
Well, you know, it's certainly a new type of a relationship. But the reality is these two individuals in Moscow and Tehran, Vladimir Putin and Ali Khamenei, have almost a quarter of a century of personal relationship, working relationship. So this isn't something new. Russia and Iran have been moving closer and closer over the last 22 years at least. And what has happened in terms of Russia's isolation for its invasion of Ukraine is they're desperate for partners, and existing partners like Iran are just that much more important to him as we've seen in the last few months. But it's not a new relationship. It's just becoming, as we just heard from State Department, a deeper relationship.
So what does Iran gain from helping Russia in its war? I mean, aside from cold, hard cash.
Well, I'm not even sure if they're getting much cash. And this is the tragedy for the Iranian nation, because they have a ruling elite at the top that have turned their foreign policy into one where Iran is essentially beholden to Vladimir Putin. Iran doesn't have anywhere else to turn to. There is no much money probably coming back to Tehran because of the drones that Iranians are giving to Russia. But the Iranians are not in a position to say no to the Russians. We've seen this elsewhere. And that is, as I said, this is because Iran's become essentially a pawn in the hands of Vladimir Putin.
Iran is also facing considerable domestic upheaval after the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in the custody of Iran's morality police. What are those protesters asking for?
Well, these protesters are different from other protests we've seen in recent years because they are squarely asking for regime change. In the last few years, you could have seen protesters coming out and asking for reform of the existing Islamic Republic. The younger generation, Generation Z as they're called, people in the 15 to 25 age group that are mostly in the streets, they're asking for an overhaul of the entire system. They want the regime gone. And the terrifying part is the regime really doesn't have a menu to offer this youth in the streets. They don't know how to compromise with it, which means, worst case scenario, more bloodshed in coming days and weeks.
So I know that the Iranian government has not been happy with these protests, to say the least, but any response that you feel has been interesting or different?
The U.S. has been in a tough position because, as you know, the Biden administration has been trying to resuscitate the nuclear deal from 2015 that the Trump administration walked away from. But to be honest, at this moment in time, it would send the wrong signal to the world if the Biden administration prioritizes the nuclear talks over providing whatever support, even moral support, to the protesters, because that's the long-term investment the United States needs to make in that country. It's the Iranian people, not the 80-year-old or 83-year-old Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, who, let's face it, he's anti-American in his DNA. He's not going to change his position on that. So why try and make friends with him? Instead, one should, if you're Washington, look to empower the Iranian people.
So, Alex, do you think these protests will bring lasting change?
Oh, I have been covering Iran for about 23 years. I would be very humble. I don't know if this is the beginning of a revolution or this would be another round of protest that will be, successfully suppressed by the authorities. What I do know is the trend. The trend speaks for itself. There's a younger generation of Iranians that have little time or no time for the Islamic Republic, its values, but it's political, economic, cultural, and they're not going to go away. And the regime thinks it can suppress its way out of it, crack down and so forth. Yes, it might work in the short term, but it's not going to be a solution in the long term.
All right, Alex. Well, we'll continue to watch this. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.